Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, of course, for welcoming us and organize the seminar, which is a great idea when you have presidency of EU and should be, of course, EU related. So I'll try at least to tackle EU questions. But more or less all the questions are actually for the members of EU states or EU members actually more or less related to the EU issues, because you try to regulate everything around us, not just the cucumbers, but also our perception of the world and the future as well. Nothing wrong about that, but of course we have to be a little bit cautious about it. Maybe my humble contribution to the seminar would be that I will be very short. But I'm of course very much prepared to answer any question you would have. Of course, if I would know how. First of all, it was very intriguing and very nice and interesting presentation from our dear Czech colleague Miroslav. Hey, not just the presentation through slides and videos and comparison between modern and postmodern or present situation, but also thank you very much for this your initiative regarding with BIP. We like it very much. We had discussion in our court of audit that we will definitely participate in that, because we realized that our audit, when we audited the prices and procurement related to the hospitals, especially hospitals, we discovered more or less the same situation as you did. But our audit would definitely look better and more convincing if we'd have some kind of data from other members countries as well, because what those data is very interesting, because at the end it could show that we have a certain and serious distortion of the competition in certain areas, and this is something that you should probably react, not just our auditees, because it's very difficult to have some kind of proposal to the auditee that, for example, a certain hospital to be a public procurement unity that would have some kind of direct contact with European Commission or something like that, which is of course unfeasible, unrealistic. That's why this data is very important for us. We have some ideas as well, but we'll share it with you, and we will of course participate in that respect. I was very intrigued with first thesis that I heard this morning, that being a strong institution is actually some kind of safeguard to be independent. And then for that part I agree. We just have to define what is strong. And then somebody oppose, because if you are strong, it's not necessary that you are independent. I'm not quite sure who oppose it or not, but doesn't matter, because this is also interesting perception as well. And what I noticed, because in Slovenia we are in this very moment and receive a lot of mails during the conference and text messages, because we are already in the high peak of the election campaigns for the governmental elections. And last election campaigns, 4 years ago, we were more or less excluded from a public discussion. Court of Audit, Supreme Audit Institution. We were not a relevant factor at that time. Nobody asked us more or less. Well, maybe some politicians are quoted our some audit findings, for example, on certain topics. But in this election campaign, they would like to have from us our response not about the statements of the top politicians who are running for the campaigns. Challenge them. Are they on the right path? Is that okay? Is data approved by the Court of Audit, etc. So now, because we are becoming so strong during past years, everybody would like to involve us in the police and in the election campaign, which is of course a high problem for us, because we have to be objecting as much as we can be out of the procedures and processes. So it's fine, it's nice to be strong, but it's maybe not good to be too strong, because then you're close to the politics, as some formal, I'm not sure anymore who was that, but some formal, very well-known, but obviously not for me, very well-known Balkan politics said that politics is very interesting, because if you're too far from the politics, then you catch cold, but if you are too close, then you burn yourself, So the right distance is actually quite a challenge for the supreme audit institutions. So maybe if you are too strong, then you are really close to the political issues, then you're really close to be not objective at the end. So to fine-tune this, this is very interesting and important thing to do. I would like to have, oh, I have lovely presentations, by the way. I would like to be a little bit more focused on how to achieve a good governance of SAI. We discuss a lot, and we discuss in the previous seminars and gatherings that we have about our necessary need for the independence and transparency and good governance. Fine with that, you know. I believe we all learned the lesson, and we all definitely agree with that. I mean, sometimes I have a feeling that we try to convince the converted already, you know. So it's fine with that. But I'm very much interested in the next dimension of our potential work and participation in the public life, and that would be that we are not just critical towards the past issues, but we have and must be also visionary and sustainably oriented. So our perception is that we allocate a certain amount of our resources not just to following what actually present government in their policies would like to achieve and how they would like to achieve and what they actually did, but we are also oriented in the topics that are not within the governmental policies whatsoever. So it's have some kind of visionary effect. It's not in the political agenda, but you can notice some problems for the public finances in the future. So we'd like to be, as much as we can be, sustainably oriented and visionary as well. And this is also regarding the EU issues, because we have to understand, and I'm pretty much convinced of that, that everything what is in best interest of European Union, as of course an organization, it's not necessarily in the best interest of member associations. Probably this is too heretic to say so, but Supreme State Auditors or Auditor Generals, we are allowed to be a little bit more provocative probably than the other people that are sitting around the table. But you know, I have one example that could serve as a proof. We are heavily financing Erasmus project, for example, and you mentioned also as one of the part of the Bulgarian presidency achievements, right? Erasmus Plus, right? But actually, Erasmus Plus is just served for as a final result to open the gates, to open the ways to move our intelligence to the young intelligence, right? Very well educated, to the other countries as a result, right? Doctors, engineers, IT specialists, whatsoever, you know. And half of the Europe is actually suffering from that, and we are paying that. Is that nonsense? From the European perspective, it's not. From member association perspective, we can be highly criticized about it. And that's the fact. So how can we do it? And we will audit, and we did, right, the effect of the Erasmus project, and also other projects in the sector of agriculture, etc., etc. How can we could have this component of being visionary, to follow the trends, to follow what happened in the environment, in the social structure, etc., etc. I think it's a nice shortcut if we follow the situation regarding the SDGs. Somebody mentioned already SDGs as a good planning platform. I definitely agree with that. We have a nice developed and elaborated national strategy about SDGs. So our way is, our task is actually monitoring the effects at the end, not just follow the implementation, but monitoring the effects, because we are deeply concerned that some effects of the measures that are planned are not necessarily the right one. Yeah? This of course could happen. At the certain areas, neither the European Union, neither some member associations, member states, and definitely not Slovenia, are not probably active enough. One area is environmental aspects. Why we are so concerned about that? Because since we have a specific situation in Slovenia, we have a second highest biodiversity index within the European Union. I think the first are my neighbors, Slovaks, but maybe just for 1 and 2 spiders you are the lead. But still, you know, I have to admit the fact. That's why we are so interested about those issues, you know. And Natura 2000 as an European, I'm not Eurosceptical by my conviction. Don't misunderstand me. But I'm very concerned and very critical towards the European project Natura 2000, because it's not supported by the relevant and sufficient resources. Yeah? And also the facts are sometimes very difficult. So we did a couple of audits on that area. Also regarding the water sources. Water sources, for example, underground water sources, quality of water, this is not regulated by European Union. This is something that is left to the member associations. And this is for me, one of the most important questions, and it definitely is a question of vision, and it should be regulated. So based on our proposal, but it was not directly our proposal, but based on our audits, concentrated on that specific area, Slovenia changed the constitution, and we put in the constitution the right for every citizen in Slovenia to have free access to quality water sources. Yeah? It's a kind of a vision that we have, right? This is interesting area for us. And then we could, and we are very much focused on the social parameters of our society, of course, and especially within the demographic trends. Demographic trends are something that is really, really bothering us, and we have a lot of performance audits focused on demographic trends. What happened, you know? Because the situation is dramatically changed. Europe is more and more old, you know. The situation in Slovenia at the moment is only 1 per 5 active persons supports 1 pensioner, for example. 85% of young people until 30 years old are still living with their parents. And the dramatically change with our society also because of the Erasmus and also some other issues as well related to that, is that we had almost 22% of population in 2000 as young, and now we just have 16%. So the society, the social structure is dramatically changed. You know? That's why we focused on trying to tackle those questions about being young, etc., etc. And we have also another specific problem, which is economic view, of course. It's migrations. Slovenia, it was some kind of transport path of migrants to promised land, Sweden and obviously Germany, maybe Austria, because I don't want to offend our Austria colleagues. Of course, it was a top destination, but definitely nobody wants to stay in Slovenia, more or less. Except this poor lady that, you know, she just had to stay because she was highly pregnant and she named her child Slovenia. But she didn't stay at all because she said, yeah, but somebody told me I have to go to Germany, you know, and somebody waits for me there. So we say, okay, you're more than welcome, you know, child was born here, you know, I mean, we will provide everything, you know, I mean, if you want to settle, have a new life, etc., there you are, right? But okay, it doesn't matter about what happened with this specific child, but of course, it was a huge interest for us. But actually, our society is definitely changing. You know? We have a lot of migration, not just from that migration wave, from Syria, etc., but we have a lot of migration. You know? How to integrate, you know, how to really, yeah, to integrate, because this is a huge not such a problem. For me, it's an opportunity, But either we tackle it or not, governments are not doing. European Union doesn't do anything at all, more or less, right? Just to have some kind of attempts within the quotas, and this is it, right? Other instruments are not working whatsoever. To go a little bit on light topics, we just want to present, because my colleague there, Diana, she was actually, she started with the idea to pronounce or whatever, to declare the World Day of Bees, right? And UN level, and she succeeded to that, and 20th May, it's going to be 20th May, the first World Day of Bees, because they're very important in agriculture, in our life, etc., etc. And this is our humble contribution to the World Day of Bees. Urban beehives on the roof of the Court of Audit of Slovenia, and next year you will hopefully receive the protocol gifts. It will be honey from the roof, which is supposed to be very clean. You know why? Simply because in the center of the city, it's the cleanest possible, because there are no pesticides, there's no influence of modern agriculture whatsoever, and it's proven to be the best honey. Yeah. So next year, when we visit each other, this is going to be a gift, right? Okay, thank you very much. I have a lot of topics to discuss, but maybe I'll answer some questions. Thanks. Bye.